부산국제항만컨퍼런스 2일차, 그럼 이제 본격적인 세션을 시작해 보도록 하겠습니다. 첫 번째 발표는 우리 영국에서 오신 아주 신사 같은 분이십니다. 팀파워 듀얼이 대표 이사님께서 글로벌 선사에게 다가온 새로운 기회라는 주제로 발표를 준비해 주셨습니다. 영상으로 한번 만나보겠습니다.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Power. I'm Managing Director of Drury Shipping Consultants, and I'm very happy to be with you here today for this BIPC 2020, a virtual conference. I hope this time next year we will all be together again. I look forward to it. One of the most amazing features of 2020 has been how the container shipping industry has coped with the pandemic. And it is set to be producing record profits this year. How can this happen? Let us compare the last time we had a major downturn in 2009 with 2020. This slide shows you what happened to rates on the Asia to North Europe trades and on the Asia to North America trades in 2008 to 2010. Look at the dark blue line. This is Asia North to North Europe. You can see that from 2008 to 2009, rates fell from over $2,000 per TEU to a low of just over 500. In the Trans-Pacific trade, rates fell by 32%. This was a financial catastrophe for the container shipping lines. But actually, when we look at 2020, we see the situation is quite different. In the run-up to January 2020, we see rates rising because of Chinese New Year, normal seasonal thing, but also because of fuel surcharges as due to the IMO low sulfur regulations. Rates then fall down to March and April, but actually that is just looks like a normal seasonal fluctuation, despite the total collapse in demand at that time. And then you can see from April onwards, rates are just going up and up and up and hitting record levels in the Trans-Pacific trade. So how has this happened? The simple answer is that lines have got better at managing capacity, but in my view, this is enabled by changes to the fundamentals of container shipping that are really important and are long-term, and I'm going to explain them to you now. Up to now, the industry has been unable to make sustainable profits because of very poor fundamentals. The first thing to note is that the industry benefits from economies of scale. That means lines have always built bigger and bigger ships. And of course, in Korea, you have the HMM with its 24,000s now. That has always meant overcapacity in the industry. You have had a market which is highly commoditized, very little differentiation between carriers, and that means that price is the main competitive weapon. And you have a very fragmented industry, frankly, too many carriers and no dominant player creating stability. You also finally have an inelastic demand curve, which means that actually when prices fall for container shipping, demand does not go up. In the airline industry, when prices fall, more people fly. But in container shipping, the price of a flat screen TV or a laptop in the shops is unaffected by container shipping prices, too low. So demand does not rise. So in the past, this has been an industry that makes money by accident. But this is now changing. In our view, economies of scale are going to run out. We think they have already run out. Lines will not build bigger than 24,000 for reasons I'm going to explain to you. When that happens, they are not chasing market share in the way they have to now. This means that the pursuit of share is less important, and market behavior means that lines will concentrate more on margins and profitability than on market share and volume. The industry has consolidated significantly since 2015, both at the company level with mergers, a variety of mergers, and also at the alliance level, which I'm also going to show you in a minute. This creates a structure that is much better able to manage capacity and maintain capacity utilization. When you have these two problems solved, actually the inelastic demand curve starts to work for you. shippers actually can afford to pay higher freight rates because the effect on end market demand for them of an increase in sea freight is negligible. No one will buy less flat screen TVs or less clothing because of an increase in freight rates on the Asia North American trade. So shipping lines are now in a position where they can start to make some proper money. This is our view. Let us demonstrate that actually the changes I have described have actually happened. First of all, this just shows you what has happened to ship sizes since 2005. 2005, Maersk introduced the E-class, the Emma Maersk class, which they originally described as 13,000 TEU. In fact, it's 15.5. And vessel sizes have risen ever since. And you can see that now they are at the 24,000. However, this huge, essentially since 2005, vessel sizes have gone up threefold. It is impossible to imagine that that would happen ever again. So we think that the increase in ship sizes is now going to stop. And the reason we think that is shown in this chart here. The purple line is the savings in costs for shipping lines as they increase ship sizes. And you can see that as they go up from 8,000 to 20,000, there is a roughly 25% saving in slot costs. But what you have to remember is that there are enormous costs incurred by ports and terminals to accommodate this. And you can see that as you rise from 8,000 to 20,000, your costs in ports and terminals rise by 20%. The net effect of all of this, when you put it together, is that actually the total cost saving is only 5%. It's hardly anything. And when you get to vessels of 24,000, actually total system costs are actually rising. We believe the lines understand this, and we also believe that in a much more uncertain market environment, they are going to be more cautious about building ever bigger ships. So we think economies of scale have run out. The other key factor I mentioned is market concentration. This chart shows you the market or capacity share of the leading shipping lines. And you can see that the light blue line at the top shows you that since 2016, the top 10 has increased its market share from 60% to 80%. That is a huge change and incredibly important. The top 5 have gone from just around 45% to around 65%. You can see now that the market is in the hands of much fewer players. This is actually becoming a real oligopoly, and that means that shipping lines are in a much better position to control capacity and therefore to control rates. Probably the most remarkable feature of 2020 is the power of these 3 global alliances. In 2008-9, the market was much more fragmented. We had several alliances and we had a number of major carriers operating independently. They are now all concentrated in 3 alliances, 2M, Ocean, and THE. And these alliances have worked very successfully to manage capacity throughout the pandemic, both by cancelling services and also by blanking sailings. This has 2 key effects. The first thing, when you take out unneeded capacity, obviously you reduce costs. But the second effect, which is much more important, is that by taking out capacity, you improve capacity utilization, and that means you are able to sustain your freight rates. If you can keep freight rates or utilization at 90% of capacity in container shipping, you will make money. If utilization drops to 85%, you will start to lose money. The great triumph of the alliances in 2020 is that they have managed capacity to sustain freight rates. There's one other key thing that I would like to point out, which perhaps at first sight may look like a bad thing for the container shipping industry. This is the GDP multiplier. In 2000, container volumes grew at roughly nearly 4 times the rate of global GDP. But you can see that this is progressively falling. And now the GDP multiplier is only around 1.5. What this means is that the long-term output for growth in this industry is modest at best, and that there are lots of downside risks. Now, that may sound bad to you, but in fact, what it means is if you're a carrier thinking about expanding your fleet, you are going to be much more cautious. And we think that that is going to help the stability of the industry. So let me put this all together in some conclusions for you. The fundamentals of the container shipping industry have, I would say, been transformed over the last 5 years, but now we have a much less certain demand growth outlook. In the old days pre-crash, you could count on 10% per annum compound annual growth. Now it's going to be probably 2 to 3. The scope for economies of scale now is very limited. We think it's going to be catch up now for those lines that don't have the large ships for the big deep sea long haul trades, but the whole liner arms race is going to abate. Concentration, both at the company level and at the major alliance level, has created the conditions in which capacity can be matched effectively to demand. The lines have demonstrated that they can do that in the most challenging possible circumstances, and we believe they will continue to do so. The stable utilization that arises from that is going to promote higher rates and much higher margins. And this is going to mean sustainable profitability for container shipping in future. There are plenty of risks, however, in changes in trade patterns and in growth, and this is going to be a major challenge for shipping lines coming up. But on the other hand, low growth will make lines more cautious about adding capacity, and that will help to promote a stable market. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, our view is that the lines are now entering a new era, which we have called liner paradise. Let's hope they enjoy it. Thank you very much.
예, 방금 들으신 것처럼
As mentioned by Tim Power, the managing director of the world-renowned consulting firm, the economic recession, well, he just covered the financial crisis back in 2008 and compare that against what happened in 2020. He mentioned that freight rate was very low back in 2008. It hit the bottom and it has been going up. The key change is due to the overcapacity or the resolution to the overcapacity, but due to the mergers and the consolidations, the number of players in the market has been reduced dramatically. As a result, carriers now have the ability to meet the demand with their capacity, tackling the issue of overcapacity. The second significant change is that carriers do not build mega-sized ships anymore. But if you build a 24,000 TEU vessel, then you can reduce the unit cost by 25%. However, to accommodate those vessels, ports and terminals would have to incur a significant cost. Actually, the cost increase amounted to 20%. So in terms of the total system cost, economies of scale can be said to run out. It is rather arguable, I think. But anyway, as a result, now carriers can make some strategic behaviors to make some adjustment in terms of their capacity or capacity management, so they can be more agile. But at the same time, if you take a look at the container growth rate, its multiplier has been reduced dramatically. Well, in the past, it was about 4 times of the GDP growth. These days, well, it's less than 1.5. So the demand growth is expected to remain quite weak. So we are entering into a whole new world for the container liners. That was the key message I got from his presentation. Thank you very much.